We are all going to do things differently. Karel, the managing director, stood on the soapbox at the entrance of the premise, repeating this process as everyone walked in. The reactions, though unspoken, were evident. Employees' faces clearly showed that they thought, and that did not bode well, I can tell you. Yet, change was about to take place within the company. The market situation, politics, and dire staff shortage were crying out for change. The company had reached a position where it was all hands on deck, and everyone had to take responsibility. At the coffee machine, people were still talking about the managing director on the soapbox. What does he want to achieve? Asked Jamie, who was waiting for a cappuccino. That we all start work even harder? To work even more overtime? Once I start taking those overtime hours, I'll be off for a year. It was clear that it would be hard to implement the change without any resistance from the employees. Scrum would be used, but people had yet to learn what that was and how it would help and what they could change from it. When companies are engaged in organizational change, the question, what's in it for us, often arises. A very logical question. Employees now do their work in a certain way and must change from that. But what if this change turns out to be detrimental? Instead of working more imaginative, they have to work harder and more. Changes take a lot of energy. This immediately makes employees wonder whatever it is worth investing this energy. You often notice that this uncertainty comes with questions or reasons not to do things. Joost was allowed to supervise a team in Karel's company. Work there was still very traditional, but more and more teams were embracing Scrum as a way of working. At one of the first meetings, Joost asked the team during a retrospective to look what they could do better as a team. Of course, there was silence for a while. There was some spinning on the chairs, but eventually there was a question. Do you think things are not going well now? Of course, Joost had no opinion on this at all yet. He had just arrived and was not in a position to judge right or wrong anyway. However, he did see that things could be improved. He discussed these things with the team and, of course, new questions arose. Question that in turn indicates that the team did not see what improvement of the changes would be. Of course, it sounds nice if you get more autonomy in your work, but many such but comments were voiced by the team members. At one point, Joost was even confronted with a statement, "We are not going to do this. This is only being done because management wants this. In a few months, they want something else again." And of course, it's super annoying when as a team you are told that you have to do things differently. And a few months later, you hear that it has to be different again. Often though, there is a reason why it is decided that things have to be different again. One such reason is that employees react differently on the change than expected. The plan took into account that employees are going to be very happy about this change. And it looks like the opposite is true. The main point here is that it's often up to those employees. The team Joost was working with had yet to be asked at all if they want more autonomy. Indeed, it was not even discussed with them. They were just told. The team was not involved in decision making at all. The new way of working, where the team members would have more to say, was implemented without them having any say in the matter. If you listen to that again, you'll hear the irony. Employees not involved in the process and the decision taken do not feel responsible. After all, management says what should be done, and if that choice was wrong, management made that decision. There is no eccentric motivation for employees to take responsibility for the change. In the end, as Scrum Master of this team, there was only one thing for Joost to do: communicate. And yes, it is such an easy process to say here. Communication solves everything. Yet, this is incredibly often underestimated when changing a company. The team that Joost was helping was entirely against the change. They did everything they could to avoid being included. They sabotaged working methods, were never on time, and became increasingly demotivated. It's super logical when you consider that they had no idea why they had to organize their work differently, had been told to work differently, and felt utterly unheard regarding their objections. Objections weighed heavily on them because they had worked at this company for years. With this team, Joost started the conversation. He wants to find out what they wanted. The best part of this conversation was that they wanted the same thing as the management wanted. They therefore elaborated on the team ideas, established their values as a team, described their preferences for working, and discussed this with the management. These happily recognized where the shoe had begun to wobble. They left the team free to decide how they wanted to work with Scrum. This has immediately revealed that the team was secretly right when they indicated that management would want something different in a few months. The plan was to introduce Scrum in steps. The first step now, and later steps, they tried to mandate the teams to fill in more things themselves. On this, Joost started working with management and refined the plan. They began to clarify what the impact was, asked the staff how best to achieve it, and continued to communicate widely and openly about this. Karel even scheduled time blocks in his calendar where employees could walk into his office to ask questions. For this, he even had to reschedule some necessary late appointments. That change is not easy, it's simply a fact. People have created habits and need help unlearning what they have learned already. However, change can become less complex if you can explain to your employees the impact of the change. Also involving your employees at an early stage and continue to communicate will help you implement the changes well. Exactly as Joost, Karel and the management of this example company ended up doing. The most critical lesson Joost and Karel learned is to take responsibility for employees by involving them a lot in your plans. This makes the decisions their own decisions. And we don't have to explain that once you have decided something yourself, you will do everything possible to make that come true.